Hey, practice owners, Ricky Shockley from MedSpa Magic Marketing, and today we're going to be talking about keys to client retention. So, as a medical aesthetics practice, we understand that we need to attract new patients, but ultimately we're going to need to keep those patients coming back. So, we need to have patients and clients that love us and trust us, refer business, and stay with us for a long time. And they don't get baited by our competitors that are maybe offering steep discounts or promotions to get our patients to make the switch. So, how can we do this? How can we create as much stickiness in our businesses as possible? So, we're going to go over some of those tips today. So I've had the pleasure of speaking with some of the top consultants in the industry on our podcast, MedSpa Success Strategies, in addition to coaching clients. And so we're pulling from a lot of different places to create this type of guidance. And these are the things that we find are the fundamentals to success. So let's jump right in here. First thing we want to do is we want to focus on putting the spa in med spa. So let's have a clean, inviting space, somewhere that people feel good and comfortable when they're in our office, whether they're waiting for services or we're performing services. Let's make sure that there's easy access. Just talked to Danielle White from Lux Aesthetics, and she talked about the idea of one of the things that was important to her when she chose her location was easy parking. Make sure that it's really convenient for people to get in and out of the office. If you can control that, try to make improvements to the ease of access for people coming in and out for service. Make sure your appointments run on time. If you were to go to a spa, you're not sitting around waiting an hour and a half like you are in a doctor's office. So really focusing on the spa type of environment and not falling into the trap of the norms that a medical practice would follow. And just remembering that the experience starts way before the initial appointment. From the first conversation those people have with you to the interactions on your website, you want to make sure that they're warmed up, comfortable, and ready to go before they even get to that initial appointment. Next thing we want to talk about is mastering the art of the consult. So this is critical. The clients that we work with that are really, really successful, they seem to really have this part down. So here are some of the key tips and pointers that we've identified. We're going to be creating an actual ebook that's going to be a free download that goes into all of these things in a lot more detail. So keep an eye out for that. But here's some of the bullet points. So you want your practitioners and your front office staff to have a welcoming and friendly demeanor. That's going to be really important. This business is a lot about trust and relationship building just as much as it is about results and being able to provide a great service and a quality product. So just remember, you're trying to build rapport and build relationships. So a friendly environment, welcoming demeanor is going to be really important in terms of injectors, estheticians, front office staff, and anything else in between. Stick to a consistent script too. I just took this tip from Danielle on our podcast episode. When you have something that's working, and you'll see this in the podcast episode if you subscribe to MedSpa Success Strategies, what Danielle talked about, but she has a specific greeting that she uses every time she comes in the room. And one of her mentors told her, don't fix it if it's not broken. If you find something that works really well, stick to that. So if you have a way that you welcome clients into the office and start up conversations, try to stick to the thing that feels comfortable, feels welcoming, and feels engaging. Ask open-ended questions to expose desired outcomes. So the interview with Danielle is fresh on my mind here because so many of these tips were kind of pulling from things that she said too. Asking an open-ended question that allows your client to tell you what their pain points are is going to open the door to the potential for cross-selling and upselling. And the thing that I like about the way that Danielle put this was you're not planting seeds of insecurity that didn't previously exist. So you're not going out of your way to point out imperfections in your clients. You're letting them speak and explain what they think they're wanting in terms of areas of improvement or things that they might feel a little bit insecure about. So using open-ended questions to expose the desired outcome, I think, is a really good tip when you're mastering the consult. Presenting a holistic solution. So once you get that information from your prospect, making sure that you're presenting them with all of the options that they have available, and then working with them on a program or a plan to help them achieve a desired result without being salesy, right? I think that's the key here is you want to introduce the other services and the things that you have to offer without it feeling like it's a sales pitch. So really just tying it to what the patient said and how these things can help you achieve desired outcome, I think is an important component to mastering the art of the consult. The other thing is the clients that we work with that tend to have the most success, they're all doing consults as part of their initial visit. So if you're a new patient, you're not just coming in and getting a rubber stamped Botox appointment. The first part of the conversation you're going to have is a de facto consult following the blueprint that we just talked about on that last slide. Going back to a different podcast episode, this is my interview with Jake Laban, former Allergan marketing executive. He's now the co-founder of Skin by Lovely, a med spa on the West Coast. Um, these are some great tips that he recommended in terms of retention and rebooking. So when we're rebooking, we want to ask when, not if. So some practices have a tendency of getting people to the counter after an appointment and saying, "Okay, would you like to schedule your next appointment?" Instead of saying, "When would you like to schedule your appointment?" and actually trying to nail down a date. That's going to increase the probability that those people actually book an appointment when they're in office, and you don't leave them to their own devices when they're home on their own time, having to remember to reach out to schedule that appointment or to have to chase them down after the fact. So really trying to get something on the books. If people say that they need to look at their calendar, try to push back a little bit and say, "Hey, let's make sure we get something on the calendar so you're there. I don't want us to be booked up when you're up for a refresh on your Botox injections. So let's just get something on the calendar. And if you have to move it, we'll move it." So those little tips in terms of really focusing on the when and not the if, I think are great. Having the practitioner set up the rebooking directly and not just relying on someone else. So you don't want the person leaving the treatment room and then going back to the front office to reschedule. You really want the practitioner either rebooking in the treatment room directly or walking the client up and handing that off at being a part of the conversation when it comes to rebooking. That's going to increase your rebooking rates dramatically. Other things that are important to retention: managing your online reputations and reviews. This is going to be important because it's a reflection of your reputation. So make sure that you've got automated, consistent Google review requests going out. Sometimes your EMR, your practice management system, will have this built in. There are all sorts of other tools that you can use to manage Google review requests. But in your Google business listing, there's a little button there that says ask for reviews. That gives you the link that you need. I recommend leaning heavily on text message when you're sending those review requests out and using favor-based language. So don't make it sound like you're doing customer survey research. Just tell people that online reviews are important to businesses like yours, and it would mean the world if they would take a minute to leave a review about their experience. Some fundamentals to great retention. I think these are things to keep in mind as you're deciding on the products and services that you offer and that are at the forefront of your marketing program. So I'll get to that in a second, but you want to make sure you've got a highly trained and knowledgeable staff. If the person working the front desk is sort of ditzy and maybe doesn't really understand what you do, you're not going to instill confidence. That person needs to have some ability to have conversations with prospects. They don't need to go fully into the details of treatment, but they need to understand what you do and have familiarity with the services that you offer so they can communicate with prospects and clients. I really like focusing on the services that are inherently sticky. So what I mean by that is we want to focus on services where people perceive a differential in outcome based on the provider. So a good example of this is, let's say you've got a laser hair removal device and it's the same device that your competitor down the street has. There's not necessarily a perceived differential in outcome. People are going to assume that that laser is doing the job, not really the practitioner as much, whether that's true or not for some of the devices. When it comes to devices, people are more willing to shop around as long as they think they can go get the service done at a cheaper price. You're going to have people that are price shopping, especially for new patients. And one of the things that we find creates stickier patients is if we focus our service list on the services that have inherent stickiness, where people do think that they're going, like if I get Botox injections at Med Spa A and Med Spa B, I know there's going to be a differential result based on the quality of the provider performing service. That creates stickiness where people aren't going to be willing to leave you to save 50 or $100 just to go somewhere else. They're not going to want to risk, the outcome of the way that their face looks just to save a few dollars. So I really like focusing on those services. The practices that we see are most successful, they do really good with injectables and the services that do fall into this category. So Botox, filler, even microneedling, lashes, PDO, sclerotherapy, maybe PRP, but just that's not an exhaustive list, but just keep that in mind that the services where there is a perceived differential in outcome will inherently create more stickiness for you. And sometimes that's a really good way to lead from a marketing standpoint. And then understanding that your customers that know, like, and trust you, that are coming back, that you can sell those people more expensive packages for some of the laser products, but sometimes it's not super efficient to market the laser products and some of your more expensive services directly unless you're super price competitive. So that's kind of the caveat there. So if you need help marketing your practice, feel free to schedule a call with me. We do a 1.5 hour free deep dive marketing plan. This entire series, we covered all sorts of things from marketing psychology to discounting strategies to Facebook and Instagram ads, Google ads, SEO, and more. So feel free to look back at this series in its entirety. And if you want to schedule a call where we can do this one-on-one for your practice, I'll make sure the link's below in this video. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.